Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. This is Williams Pat Hand pinball machine. We've done a couple videos on this so far. We did one where we kind of looked over the condition it was in when we got it, and we worked on the mech board in the bottom. And then we did another one where we worked on the playfield, basically. We repainted some stuff. I won't tell you what, no, you'll just have to watch that video. But we have repainted some of this playfield and then cleaned it all up, shopped it out, as they say, and it's looking pretty good. So we are now down to, we need to get the thing to work, so we need to keep cleaning stuff. So the next part is my least favorite part. We've got to clean the back. Oh God, we got to work on the score. Oh, we got to work on the score reels, and it looks like there's 100 of them. No, you can't comfort me. There's at least 100. I can tell from here. There's a bunch of them. So I'm going to slide this thing out, and we'll look at what's in the back box. You know, these 4-player Williams and a 4-player Bally, they're typical of each other. You know, so like all the Williams, they've got about the same back box. The score reels even kind of line up in the same spot. There's really only a couple ways you can put 4 players on there, you know. So on the Bally's, at least, I'm convinced that you can swap some of the heads back and forth between the games. I don't know about all of the Williams, but probably. There's probably a few games that you could literally take that head and plug it into the other one. So we've seen this a million times before, but let me slide it out from the wall, and we'll look at what's back there and see if we can see what we can do. All right, so the first thing that I notice is the back of the game is starting to disintegrate. Some of these games, the sides are plywood, or I believe plywood, but the back is like particle board. Maybe the sides are too. No, that's plywood. So the sides are plywood, but the back is particle board. I don't know why they did that. You'd be better off with the sides being particle board and the back plywood. But whatever, that's how they chose to do it. We're going to work with what we got here, folks. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just, yeah. We bought this from a lady not too far from here who had it in her garage. And she claimed that the thing worked. But if you watch the previous videos, there's no way this thing ever worked. They didn't even have the Jones plugs plugged in. So something ain't right. And then also, we bought it and left the head on it. That's why the cord's in the wrong spot. So this power cord is supposed to go through there. So you got to take these bolts off, lift it up, slide the power cord through this little slot. If with it like this, the back door won't go on. So you might say, well, how was the back door on? Well, it's because the power cord was down inside. Furthering my opinion that they never had this thing working. It could be they had it working somewhere and then they moved it, but the Jones plugs were filthy. Very hard for me to believe that this thing was working at that lady's house. I think she was lying to me, trying to get me to pay her the small amount of money that I paid for this pinball machine. But the joke's on her, because I think it's a much cooler game than she thought it was. So we got 16 score reels that we need to clean. And then we have this here, which Williams was calling their player unit. So this is going to be what actually changes everything from player 1 to player 2, player 3, player 4. Little stepper unit. We'll have 4 positions that it can be in. And then we have this, which Williams called, I believe, their credit unit. Some companies call it the replay unit. So it's basically what keeps track of whether you've got credits on the game or not. And then, everybody's favorite, the match unit. Very similar to the stepper used on the player unit. So, same as always, you know. Now, we've got, same as always, 2 reset relays for the scores. And then 3 scoring relays. So one will be 10 points, one 100 points, and one 1,000 points. You don't need one for 10,000 points, even though it will do 10,000 points, because there's nothing on the playfield that scores 10,000 points at a time. everything scores multiples of 1,000. So, for instance, if you score that 10,000, you just scored 1,000 10 times. And you don't need a 1 through 9 score relay, whatever you call it, because the first number is fake. So you can't score 1 point. It's stuck on 0. So you can have 0 points, or you can have 10 points. You cannot have 9 points. So very standard. Like I said, I would not be surprised if you could plug this right into a different game. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm looking on the Internet Pinball database. I don't see one that's exactly the same. They're all very similar, or a lot of them are very similar. So this is Pat Hand that we were just looking at. The main difference I'm seeing is there are 4 Jones plugs down here in the bottom right. So then we move to Starpool. Starpool predates Pat Hand. It has 4 connectors down here in the bottom right. It's got the same score relays. Everything's in the exact same spot, but the match unit's different. This is the little smaller unit. So that one's not the same. And then this is Stratoflight. The picture is super small. Everything seems to be laid out exactly the same, but I can't tell if there are 4 sets of Jones plugs. So I think this is the one that's probably the closest. So Stratoflight may have the exact same head as Pat Hand. Now don't try this, because then, you know, if it doesn't fit, I don't want you getting mad at me. I'm just saying, it's interesting. And then there is the famous Dealer's Choice. This is a great game. You can see this is where the little score window is. I mean, the credit window. Everything seems to line up in the same spot, but I don't have a picture of the back of it. And this is OXO. Strange name. But it all kind of seems to line up in the exact same spot. And then this is Jubilee, the famous Jubilee. We've had several of these. So the score reels are all the same. Player unit appears the same. Credit unit and the match unit. All of the score relays. But there's only 3 Jones plugs. The 4th Jones plug on ours is from the playfield. So there's 3 from the bottom and 1 from the playfield. Usually that's, you know, there'll just be some reason that they need a connection from the playfield to the head. But my whole point is, a lot of times whenever people watch our videos, they don't get, and I don't blame them because they just, you know, they've only got one machine. They don't understand that these machines are all very similar, because think about it. If you have one machine that you've designed and it's fun to play, you just change it a little bit. You don't have to reinvent the whole thing. You just change a couple little things, and now you got a completely different machine. Or sometimes you can even use the exact same parts down to the number of targets, the number of bonus, you know, the way the bonus works and all of that, and just move stuff around on the playfield. So in this instance, they're not even moving stuff around on the back box. They're just changing the art to fit the same exact layout of parts in the back box. So pretty cool. Anyway, back to our machine. All right, so I started cleaning the relays, and I cleaned this player unit, and it seems to be doing its thing. Position 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So then I went up here to this match unit. It doesn't want to cooperate. So it's working just fine without the spider on it. But whenever you put the spider on it, it just locks. It just stays where it is. Sometimes it'll move and then it'll stop again. Whoa, oh boy. So it's got some issues. Let me show you what's going on with it. So I noticed that some of the little snowshoes, as I call them, were sideways. So see how they're lined up as it turns, it slides sideways across the rivet. Okay. So if you look, there is a little rounded. you can see how I can slide up on the side of it. So as it rolls over the rivet, the rivet slides up on that, or this slides up on the rivet, and this can all move in and out. Okay, so they are lined up so that they run across the side of the rivet as it turns. But a couple of them were turned sideways, and that's why it was locking, because basically this was trying to go sideways over the rivet instead of from the end. The reason for that is because the little thing that holds it is moving. So like that. You see all that? So that's moving around in the hole. And because of that, it can turn to where the snowshoe is sitting there like that. So when it hits the rivet, it just stops and it won't keep moving. I haven't seen this very often. And if you look, it looks like somebody's messed around with it. See how the board here is all black? That's from heat, no doubt. And also about half of those that have been replaced or whatever, they're like a slightly different color, the springs and stuff. So I think someone has done some repair work on this at some point. So what we need to do is get those straightened out, get the wire soldered to them, and then put some kind of glue on it so that they won't spin around. And you got to do it where it'll kind of withstand stress a little bit, because it's going to be moving. It's a moving part, you know. And there is a little friction as this thing turns for that snowshoe to try to slide up on the rivet. All right. So I got to make that a little better. All right, so I glued the thing back in with Gorilla Glue. And boy, she's in there now. And then I soldered the wire on it. I checked continuity to make sure that this and this and this and this are all connected. They are. I didn't glue the pin in, so it's still movable. And I think that has fixed it. So we'll see if it can now slide over the rivet like it's supposed to, since it's going at it sideways now. All right, so got it mounted back on. There's my glue fix. What do you think? Boy, I'll bet y'all love that. But you know what I love? It moves perfect now. Now, if you watch that little shoe in there, look how effortlessly it slides on the rivets. Look at that. Now, that's a repair if I've ever seen one. This may be one of the greatest things I've ever done, pinball-wise. It's a little off, isn't it? Let's see. So here's another thing you can do. See how that shoe it's off a little bit? See how they're all behind the rivet a little bit? What happens is these things move a little bit. You can actually usually adjust this. There's 2 screws in there that you can loosen to adjust it, but it's hard to do without putting this on there. But usually there's just enough give that you can just pull it a little bit. So let's see. I don't know if I can do it with one hand, but usually you can turn it just a little bit. Just enough to straighten it up. Moved a little bit. So this is my hack video here. This is how you, there we go. Did you see it snap? It moved a little bit. That's probably where it's supposed to be, and it moved on somebody else. So all I did, folks, was put it back, all right? I don't want to hear no crap. So now you can see that they track a little better. Might even be too far now. You don't want it on 2 rivets at the same time, because you end up with, yeah, I think we're too far. You end up with it lighting up 2 lights and things like that. Yeah, it moves, so I can move it now. So let's get back to our glued one. Look at that, like a trooper. So that took a little while to get that right, but I think we're right now. Now, since that was seized up, you know what would have happened? the match would have never worked. And we can't have that. Okay, let's look in the schematics and see if that match does anything else. Because see how there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 sets of fingers on there. You could argue that there's even more than that. But there's all kinds of stuff on there. So let's see if the match is used for anything except the match at the end of the game. And the reason I'm calling it the match is because it's called the match unit. So how do you figure that out? Well, if you look on the schematics, it will tell you. And the stepper units are generally denoted by a box. So the player unit. There we go. Match unit. So the match unit apparently lights up the match numbers. That makes sense, right? So that's one thing that the match unit is doing. Ball count unit. Oh, here's another one. Match unit lights up the top target lights. Now, why would they do that? Why would they have it do the top target lights? That has nothing to do with the match. It's because it's this cool little unit that's in there moving around all the time. And why not use it to animate something on the playfield? So what makes the match unit work? Let's see if we can find that too. It's usually down here towards the end. Almost like I've done this before. Number match step up, or that may be normally open match step up. I don't know. Whatever. What makes it happen, what makes it move up is the 100-point relay. So every time you score 100 points, a switch closes on the 100-point relay and makes the small chime work, but that same switch makes the match step up coil pull in, and that will move that match unit one position. So that's basically a pseudo-random thing, right? So they're doing that so at the end of the game, this, whatever number is lit up here, is kind of random. It just depends on where it started and how many times you scored 100 points through the 100-point relay. So not through the, so like if you've got 90 points and you score 10 points, that will give you 100 points, you know, but you only scored 10 points. Only the 10-point relay pulled in, I believe, unless the 10-point relay pulls in the 100-point relay. Look, you get the whole point, right? So that's that. So it's used for that. So since it's spinning around, every time you hit 100 points, it's going to move it, which is going to move these top target lights. Let's see if we can find that on the playfield. So I believe they're talking about these. So that match unit is showing 5 lights that move every time that the match unit steps up. So these score 50 points. And when you hit that, you're going to get, so you'll get 50 points. That would not move it, right? Only 100 will move it. This says advanced bonus and 100 when lit, so that would move it. These say button score 1,000 points when lit. Those may do 100 if they're not lit, etc., etc. So that's just another thing that they're doing with the match unit. So there's another area up here near the end that also uses the match unit that says number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So that's those target switches that we were just looking at. That match unit is what makes those score the 3,000 points. So if you hit one of them, if the match setup is at the right spot, so let's say this is position 1, where it's turned on number 1, that's turned on that light. If that's lined up, whenever you hit it, you will get 3,000 points. If you were to hit number 2, it's not lined up right now, so it wouldn't be lit up, and you wouldn't get 3,000 points. Now there may be another switch on there that gives you something else if it's not lit up. I don't see those jumping out at me right now, but that may be how they've got that going. Very cool. So I wonder if there's any way to tell which one that was. Oh, you know what would have happened? See how this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 positions on it, right? And then the match lights also have 10 positions on them. And then in this part of the match unit, those lights also have 10 positions on it. Notice that when it gets to the 6th position, it just lights up the first light again, right? So the match unit has 10 positions. Now, another thing that it does is it's used here to actually make the match work, where you actually get a free game if your last digit matches whatever number's lit up. So let me show you on the little plate again. So since this unit only has one coil, it just continuously moves in the same direction. You saw me doing that earlier. And if you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 rivets between this set of contacts and this set of contacts. So the way it was before, since that thing had turned around sideways in there, it was getting stuck on the side of the rivets, and that thing was just sitting there in the same spot all the time. And so when that coil pulled in, it would just sit and was stuck. So that would have just made it all not... It would have still worked, but you would have only had the one light lit up, and the same match number would be lit up at the end of every game. But now that we have it moving, if that thing wasn't connected, then what would happen is every 5th time this turned around, every, I don't know, I guess 50 revolutions or whatever, 50 scores of the 100-point relay, you would get in a situation where for 10 spots, it wouldn't work. So the game would play, and then all of a sudden, either the lights would turn off until you scored 100 points 10 times, or the light would be on, but the scoring wouldn't work. For 10 scores of 100. Or the match light wouldn't come on at the end of the game, but as soon as you scored another 100 points 10 times, the match light would start working again. Or the match light would come on, but no longer actually work. So it would say 30. If you had 30, it wouldn't match, and it would be like that until you scored 100 points 10 more times. Because this thing would be crippled, basically. As this part moved through, when it started down here, this maybe is the match light. So as that went through, none of the match lights that it was on would work. And then this part might be the actual math that makes the match work. And so as it moved through there, the match wouldn't work. But by that point, this set would be over here, and the match light would work again. And then it would move up here to these 10, and they might be the light on the playfield for that little score thing. And so those wouldn't come on. Although, since this would be over here, the scoring for it would still work. You just wouldn't know which one was lit up because it was on the bum leg, right? And then it would move over to there, and now the scoring for the lights would work, but whenever you hit the one that was lit up, it wouldn't score right because this would be over there. This stuff is just, it's crazy how they designed all of this. Very, very clever. You can see how since they had that match unit in there doing work, putting in the work, people, that they had to think of something else to use it for instead of just using it for the match. So we were talking earlier in the video about how Stratoflight, William Stratoflight from 1974, it looked like the same exact head. If you look at it, the schematics for it, they used it a little more cleverly on this one. So the match unit does the match, but then it also does this. It'll light up a light that says, eject lights open top gate, or opens bottom gate, right? So instead of scoring, it does score 500 points no matter which one's lit up, but it also opens and closes gates, it looks like. So if we move down the schematics, they're using it there to score either 1,000 points or 100 points, depending on which one it's on. Let's see if it is telling it how to eject. Yeah, and they are using it a 5th time to either open the top gate or open the bottom gate. So on this one, they're using all 5 positions of the match unit. On ours, they're only using 4 positions of the match unit. So you've got 5 sets of the pins, and this might be, again, I didn't look up which wires were what, but let's say these are the lights for the match unit, and this is the math that makes the match unit work, and then these are the lights for the playfield, the top piece, and then these are the wires that make that top piece score right. There's more wires here for the 5th set of rivets, right? So on that Stratoflight, they're actually using those, and they're using it to make that the whatever lights are on the playfield actually eject the ball. So they've got 1 set of lights for the match, 1 set of the math for the match, 1 set of lights on the playfield, 1 set of scoring for the lights on the playfield, either 100 or 1,000, and then 1 set of opening up the ball gate or close, or the top one or the bottom one. So it has a very interesting playfield, but keep in mind this Pat Hand does too. It's got just a unique playfield, but this Stratoflight, the playfield's nuts. Boy, the people that are all upset whenever we do weird games, they'd hate this one. Look at this. Look at the squareness of the playfield. They wouldn't know what to do. They'd say, ooh, it's different. I don't like it. But you can see the lights up top. So it looks like, you know, as the match unit turns on this game, it would light up one of these different ones. So let's say it lights up opens top gate. If the ball lands in where it says advanced bonus, you would get 500 points, I think, and it would open the top gate. I wonder if this was designed by... no, that guy worked at Bally. Never mind. I thought it was our crazy guy that did the zipper flippers. But this is a Williams. So it's handling the scoring, it's handling opening the gates, it's handling lighting up those lights, it's handling making the match work, and it's handling making the match lights work. So this one, even though it was earlier than Pat Hand, actually had a little more going on. So the design on that Stratoflight and Superflight was by Norm Clark, who was also the guy that designed this game. So, but yeah, he probably didn't have much to do with how the match unit works. But very cool. So I think we got that fixed. Then while I was waiting on the glue to dry, I went ahead and I cleaned all 16 score reels. Oh, it was horrible. It took forever. I'm missing one piece too. So the little plunger that moves the thing, this one's missing. And I thought I had one. There was one in the game, but I remember I put that one in the game, and it's slightly different. They changed them at some point. These are the 3-inch Williams score reels. And they also, you had a 4-inch score reel. So the little actuator that I've got is for a 4-inch score reel. But never fear, I've got other Williams games. I'll go find one of those. I got to go look in my storage and find that part. I looked online. I couldn't find any to order, but one will pop up. I need a 3-inch. I just need another 3-inch score reel for a Williams so I can get that part. They don't make them anymore, unfortunately. But there's plenty of parts out there. So we've cleaned that. I cleaned that as well. We cleaned that. I cleaned all of the score reels. So now we get to do one of my favorite parts. We're going to see if the score reels will all reset. So basically, I leave them all set on like the number 1. And then whenever you hit start, every one of them has to reset back to 0 before the game will start. That's a good way to tell if you've got them all adjusted right. If they do that, good. If they don't, then it very quickly tells you which one ain't adjusted right. So let's see what we can do. I think I've got the power on. It might, sometimes if you're like in the middle of a game and something's not properly adjusted, it may do it whenever you turn the power on. But not this time. So, what do you think? Is it going to help us? Oh, look, the match light is on, 30. See how the 1 is still on 0? That's because that's the one with the piece missing. The 4 zeros on the end for the 1's digit are all the dummy reels. So let's see if it wants to cooperate. It did want to cooperate. Very cool. So this is the hundreds relay. Since we've started the game now, we can check our match unit. Very cool. Boy, the chimes sound like crap, don't they? We got to work down there some more. We got to do under the playfield, and we have to do the chimes. But we've almost we've got probably 2/3 of the game done now. All right, so it's starting to look pretty good. I think we've got everything in the back of the back box working pretty decent. We've got the playfield clean. Hopefully everything on the mech board down at the bottom's all right. We still need to do under the playfield. Need to do some cosmetic stuff. And we need to do the chimes, obviously. Clank, clank, clank. It sounds like you take like some a crescent wrench and throw it in a dryer. That's what it sounded like. Something like that. So we'll work on that next time. So make sure to leave your comments below. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. We didn't have to do that. We didn't have to film all this, but yet we did out of the kindness of our little hearts. That's all. The only reason we did it. So that you might enjoy these videos. So we will see you on the next one. Now, don't forget, check out my brother Donnie. My brother Donnie has his own channel here on YouTube. We work on arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes here at the shop. But my brother Donnie works on old buildings. He was telling me today that he was up on the roof again. He plays up on the roof. Every time it rains, you got to get up there and see if there's a leak or something. He was up on the roof again today, and old buildings, old vehicles, and he has a farm. So there's always something cool going on my brother Donnie's channel. I'm over there with him on that channel. I will see you over there, but we'll see you back here in a couple days with hopefully the conclusion of this beautiful 1975 Williams Pat Hand pinball machine.